Okay, what we want to do now is that we want to add a bottom to our boot to finish it off. Um, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Now, remember, let's go back to our front view. Remember how I didn't like the fact that the boot didn't really align, the heel didn't align with the ball of the foot. Let me bring in my illustration here so that we can look at that. And I'm going to redraw this so that it aligns properly. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to come over here with a line. I'm going to start outside of my shape, like so. And I'm going to come over and I'm going to follow the contour of my foot as it's outlined in my drawing, like so. Okay, and I want to make sure that that line extends, that curve extends beyond there. And I'm going to we've resculpted this a little bit, and I'm going to shape this so that it follows along this profile here. I'm going to draw myself another line, and I'm going to start outside. And you'll see why we do that in a second. And I'm going to draw a curve that sort of matches the profile of this curve that I've created here. I'm going to extend that out that way, like so. Okay, and I'm going to turn off my reference image now. And I'm going to go into my perspective window. And I'm going to select this curve. And I'm going to do an extrude curve. And I'm going to make sure that both sides is turned on, like so. And I want to make sure that that intersects my object there. And I'm going to do the same for this curve right here, creating something that looks like that. Okay? And so I have something that looks like that. Okay? And now I'm going to use a command, and I call the command create solid. Okay? And it asks me to select the surface and poly surfaces that I want to use to create my solid. And I right click and I get something that looks like that. Okay? And you can see that that really mimics the shape of the foot. And if I look at it from this point of view, both the heel and the ball of the foot are landing. Okay, and now I want to create a transition between these two surfaces. And let me go over here to perspective because it's actually closed off the top, and I'll show you how to deal with that in a second. It sort of created a poly surface. You no longer have a clean surface, I have a poly surface now. And I want to explode that. I want to get rid of this top surface because I really don't need it. And I'm also going to come over here, select this surface and this surface, and I'm going to join them back together again because I want those to be joined. The reason why I want them to be joined together is that now I want to go. The step that I want to do now that I've joined my surface back together is that I want to fillet my edges. Okay, I'm going to fillet the edges so that I get a nice transition across this heel. Okay, and the way that I'm going to do this is that I start by looking at my heel, and I'm going to execute the command fillet edge. Okay, and come over here and get fillet edge, and it asks me to select the edges that I want to fillet, and I want to fillet these edges right here. Okay, and what I want to do is that I'm going to begin adding handles. And as I look at this handle is like right over here. And this radius is okay. And I'm going to click that in, and I have my preview turned on. Okay. And what I'm going to do is that I want to come in now, and I'm going to add another handle. Click my add handles command, and I want an added handle right up here along the center over there. I'm going to add another one directly across from that one right there. I'm also going to add a handle along this mark right here, and I'm going to come along on the other side, and I'm going to add a handle on the opposite side across from that, and I'm actually going to add another handle. My final handle is going to be right here along the center of the toe right there. Okay, and I kept the same value there because now what I want to do, I'm going to go in and I'm going to click on this handle right here, and I'm going to change the set new fillet radius. I'm going to change that to 1.5. There. Oops. 1.5, and I get that result there. And I'm going to come along the back, and I'm going to change that value to 1.5. Okay. And I get that result along the back. Okay. And I take a look at that, and that looks pretty good. And now I'm going to right click, and if everything works out as it should, I should get that filleted, and that looks really nice, and that's nice and clean, and I get a nice transition between those edges like so. Okay, and now I could actually turn off my foot for right now, and I can look at this. Okay, and normally I would be happy with this, and you can be happy with this, but I want to show you something else. And actually, you could actually stop at this point if you wanted to. But one of the things that you could do as an added bonus is that let's take this object, and we're going to take this poly surface and we're going to explode it. Okay, and I'm going to take my filleted edge here that I've created, and I'm going to hide that for a second. Another way that we could resolve the transition from this surface to this surface, let's get rid of that curve, I'm going to hide that also, is that we could do a blended surface between these two, and we can compare the results. Okay, and so what we can do is come over here and we can type in blend surface, and it asks you for the segment of the first edge, and we'll go there, and we'll go there, and that's our first edge, right? So we'll right click there, and then ask for the second edge, go there, and we'll go there, and we have our seam here. We want to make sure that those are aligned and they're facing in the proper direction. And let's turn on our preview, and now we have this blended edge. Okay, the advantage of the blended edge, there are a couple advantages that you have with your blended edge. You sort of have your profile here too, and here we have like a curvature blend, and what you can actually do with your blended edge, I'm going to bring this over here, is that you can control how the two surfaces transition into each other. So if you want a softer transition there, I can pull that back like that, and that's surface 1, and I can sort of control how it moves into surface 2, you know, and you have a lot more sort of like creative freedom. You could do something like that if you wanted to. It gives you a lot more choices here. That one's based on curvature. If we go up to tangency, and you can control that for each one, tangency means that they're going to flow evenly into each other, and you can punk that out like that or push that out like that, and that's curve 1, and then you could move it into, decide how it moves into curve 2, and so it gives you the blended surface gives you a greater level of control. And you can also have positional, which deals with just position. That gives you a much harder movement between the two, and you notice that it's very rigid. Here you could go with G3, and so you have different types of tangency options that you can use to govern how the surfaces transition into each other that go beyond what you would get with a fillet. I'm going to go with a tangency because that gives me a nice flow between my surfaces and approximates more closely my ankle surface here. And I can use this sort of curve here along the side to govern how those two surfaces meet up into each other, and I kind of like that right there. And I'm going to accept that. And note that when you use a blended surface, it basically creates a surface between the two, so you will have to join the three together to create your resultant poly surface. And now I have the basic design for my surface, my boot surface, that I can now use to detail my prosthetic leg, which will be the prosthetic cover, which will be the subject of our next tutorial lessons, and we'll stop it there for now. Have fun.